Roberto, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Doing great, Alex. How you guys doing today?
I'm doing good. Doing good. It's a great day. Today was it 82? Getting back on that warm weather.
That's right, and we're getting the weatherman says we're gonna get a cold front tonight, so it's gonna be downright frigid in South Florida in a few hours.
I was enjoying the heat actually for a moment. It's like, yes, back.
I'm a tropical bird also, so I like the heat.
So before we get to know about Ports Everglades, let's get to know you first. So where are you from?
I'm originally from Havana, Cuba. My family migrated here back in the late '60s, 1969 to be exact. I came here by myself at the tender age of 12 years old. And then the family, the rest is history, as they say. I've been a South Florida resident ever since. The family came about a year later, and little by little, we all, took residence in South Florida, and have been here. I've been here ever since, and hopefully, we'll be here forevermore, however long forever is. I have, as mentioned earlier in our conversations, I've been working in the international logistics, international commerce, fresh out of college. I mean, 1977, young buck coming out of Miami-Dade North College. I started in the industry as a messenger, and my whole family is in the international logistics trade. So family gatherings become quite interesting sometimes. We'll all compare notes and what's going on. That's from a professional standpoint. From a personal standpoint, I like traveling. My wife and I travel quite a bit. I'm a weekend drummer for a local rock band.
What?
Yeah.
Please,
You know,
let's drop a plug for your band. What's the
well,
name of your band? What's the name of your band?
we, as far as dropping a plug, the pandemic unplugged us. So we haven't played out. We haven't played out literally since it's been over a year since we've been out. But we basically graced all the local stages. Our regular gig was Cadillac Ranch out in Kendall. The name of the band is Four on the Floor, and we do cover tunes.
Number
Yeah,
four,
four.
on the
Yeah,
floor.
on the floor. Yeah, and that's basically a reference to a stick shift in a car. Cars, instead of the automatic, they have the stick shift. They call it four. On Americans, they call it Four on the Floor. So we do.
Do we have a website?
No, we have a Facebook page, and that's where we communicate with our fan base. And but we do rock tunes, the 70s, 60s, a little bit of 80s, and each gig has become a gathering of friends, international commerce colleagues, and it's become a thing, if you will. But yeah, I dabble in music. I get that from my father. My father was a musician, going back to the Cuban heydays of Tropicana, and I call it my Ricky Ricardo years. I've got pictures with me with my dad and his band and all that kind of stuff. So that's what kind of keeps me from going totally insane when you sit behind the drum set and all four limbs are doing different things, and I sing background as well. So I don't have time to think about anything work-wise. It becomes another dimension. I'm a living Jekyll and Hyde. People come out to see me and say, I can't believe that's you playing the drums. I'm used to seeing you in a suit and a tie. Just the two things just don't correlate. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
So how does your logo look like for Four on the Floor?
We don't have a logo.
Or on your Facebook page?
You get too technical. there's other bands that I've been with in the past that we've recorded CDs, and you can actually go into Apple Music and still get the CD from the band that I was with before, Franklin's Wheel, and that was all original stuff. It was kind of like a Santana-ish sounding type stuff, and that band was together for about 5 years. We had a good following.
All right. Okay, cool. Did you always want to do international? I mean, it seems like it was generational. Like everybody in your family is doing it, so you was like, this is something I want to do.
Yeah, you kind of, it's one of those. I'm one of those that I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I still don't. But I kind of fell into it. My mom, when we got here from Cuba, my mom used to work for a freight forwarding company, and she would tell me, look, you got to get your stuff together. You're not. You got to get some kind of a career path here. I said, well, I'll do whatever, as long as I can earn a living. And she said, okay, I'll get you a job. And she hooked me up as a messenger at the time for Brenuth Shipping. They're no longer around, but I started as a messenger and just kind of grew within the industry, and it's become a career. It's the only thing I've ever done, and I like it. There's always something new. The world thrives on commerce, and being in South Florida and having the benefit of being bilingual is sure as heck helped. You deal at the port. We deal primarily with Latin America, and anything that has to do with international commerce in South Florida is essentially tied in to Latin America. Heck, Miami is essentially the capital of Latin America for all intents and purposes. So it's something that I enjoy. I've always worked in the commercial end of the transportation logistics industry, and it's done well. I enjoy it. I really don't mind. A lot of people, oh shit, I have to go to work. And I enjoy going to work. I travel a lot. I've gotten to go to places that you otherwise wouldn't get to go to, because when people travel, you travel to tourist type places. In my line of work, by chance, sometimes you go to tourist type places, but in general, you don't. And I essentially have got to travel pretty much the whole world.
So
it's been a nice ride, as they say.
Well, you still got plenty of more rides, man.
I'm hoping that this last year, this past year, I've had to pivot, because you depend on, when you're doing marketing, you depend on traveling, and you depend on relationships, and you depend on seeing people eye to eye. And with not being able to travel, we've had to basically pivot and see how we can market the port without having to go to Bogota, Colombia, or Lima, Peru, or Shenzhen, China. So what we've been doing over the last a year now, it's hard to believe, is doing a lot, and myself and the rest of the transportation and international commerce life has become a series of webinars and Zoom meetings, which I really think, when we first started doing this, you kind of did it out of necessity. But I think a good chunk of this we've learned along the way, and in speaking with colleagues and stakeholders, more or less share the same opinion, that we've learned through the process that, hey, this is a valid format that we can continue to use. Most of the meetings that we held at the port, people that would attend the meetings were essentially locals. I can do, for example, we hold a quarterly perishable cargo meeting. The port brings in a lot of perishable cargo from essentially the world, but primarily from Latin America. Chances are, if you've eaten a blueberry or a grape or an orange or a tomato or yuca or pineapples or bananas, they came in through the port.
I mean, I had Chilean blueberries for breakfast.
Yeah.
Does it come from your port?
When I go to Publix, I look at the labels of the little plastic clamshells and see where they come from, or the bananas, and when I buy bananas, and primarily they come from Guatemala, I send a text to the Guatemalan Trade Commissioner, say, hey, I'm supporting you guys. So
that's good. That's good. That's a good one.
Yeah, because you deal with these people day in, day out. They're here to promote products from their respective countries, and we work hand in hand with them literally every day to help them in the process of developing and fomenting the need for their products here in South Florida.
You mentioned that the pandemic and doing all these Zoom and all these virtual stuff. I mean, I've heard the same throughout my interviews, that there is something there. There's definitely a complement. It's never going to replace, of course, the person to person,
No.
But I think there's a value, like you said, like all these conferences, I'm sure will now benefit more from paying more attention to their virtual presence and allowing those people that cannot travel for whatever reason.
And you're starting to see it. I totally agree with you. There is never going to be a replacement to the eyeball to eyeball. I mean, business thrives on personal relationships, and you can do a lot through email. You can do a lot through the phone. You can do a lot virtually, but there's no substitute for being with a person. It just cements the relationship, and you feel compelled to do more for someone that on a personal level than someone that through a phone call or through an email exchange. But I think these virtual platforms have opened the door to a lot of people realizing that, hey, if someone from Peru, for example, hey, instead of me spending $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to go to Miami or South Florida, to be a little bit more regional, and not really being able to have an ROI or quantify the expense or knowing what I'm going to get from spending that kind of money. Let's set up a series of virtual meetings. Let's explore, using a phrase that you used earlier, deep dive. Let's do a couple of preliminary get to know each other, virtually, and then as things develop, if we do find the need that, hey, there is an actual purpose to meeting, let's go ahead and I'll get on a plane and I'll go to Lima, or the guy from Lima will come here. But I think there will be definitely a place for these virtual platforms to moving forward. Coming out of, it's still early on, but coming out of the pandemic, there's been, without a doubt, a financial impact to a lot of companies. We're not excluded from that. The ceasing of cruising activity has hurt South Florida, if not Florida at large, tremendously. Speaking for ourselves, I don't want to speak for any other port. And by the way, there's 15 deep water ports in Florida, which is kind of hard to believe. Speaking for ourselves, pardon me?
News to me.
Yeah, there's 15 deep water ports in Florida. It's a relatively big peninsula. So, but I mean, for us, going back to the justification for these virtual platforms, companies are going to have to recoup financially for the next year, 2 years. Ourselves, the not having cruises going in and out of the port has impacted our earnings by 35%. 35% of our revenue comes from cruising. So that's, I mean, you're talking millions of dollars that the port has not taken in. And by the way, the port operates on revenues generated by the port users. in as much as Port Everglades is an entity of Broward County, we do not use a penny from Broward's tax roll for the port's operation, which is a great benefit to Broward. To the people of Broward, you have a world-class economic engine that it's not costing you literally a penny. Our economic impact is tremendous. The amount of people that work because of the economic or the commercial activity through the port and the cruise. I mean, and not only locally, a lot of what you buy or everything that you buy on a cruise ship, from the food you eat to the booze, liquor, the produce, the tomatoes that are used for the salad, all that comes and is supplied from local companies. So the stop of the cruising industry has had a very deep ripple effect on the local economy.
So let's talk a little bit about the port.
Let's do it.
Port Everglades, your small baby, massive port.
Well, listen, it's still in the overall, we're the 12th as far as volume, the total volume of U.S. ports. We are number 12 nationwide.
That's awesome.
So it's not too shabby. We do an average of about 1 million containers a year in cargo. Anything from a cell phone, anything that can come on a ship, comes in and out of the port. We supply Latin America. Latin America gets essentially all of their consumer goods, or a good portion of their consumer goods, from the United States, and they go through our port. 75, if not almost 80% of the commercial activity for Port Everglades is Latin America. Yeah, the port brings in and out. We have a 60-40 split on imports to exports, which is pretty healthy. We also bring petroleum used in 11 counties in South Florida. Gasoline, to be precise, comes in through the port. All of the planes that fly in and out of MIA, Fort Lauderdale, and West Palm, all that jet fuel comes in through Port Everglades, and it gets fed into the each airport by underground connections.
Where does it come from?
Primarily from the Gulf. We don't refine petroleum at the port. We store gasoline. The only added product, the only added service, if you will, that happens at the port from a petroleum standpoint is petroleum additives. All gasoline is the same. They add more octane or less octane, so you can have your regular, mid-grade, and premium. Don't tell that to anybody. We also bring cement. All of the cement that gets used in South Florida for construction comes in through the port. Automobiles, which is the latest crown in the service, the latest jewel in the crown of services that we have at the port, is automobiles. The Chevy Blazer gets put together in Mexico, and that comes in through ships from Puerto Veracruz into Port Everglades. We also export automobiles. We export the entire SUV line from BMW through the port to various processes, and we move a lot of used automobiles all throughout Latin America. So the port has a very diverse revenue base, and that has helped. That has helped us to weather the situation over the last year.
And in your role in particular in the ports day to day?
My role day to day is to market the port, sell it, speak constantly with our customers, and to let them know what's happening at the port, what's not happening at the port, the infrastructure that's available at the port for them to use. So in a nutshell, marketing. Marketing. I speak in a lot of conferences. Just overall, I call it spreading the Port Everglades gospel to whoever wants to listen to me. But yeah, I subsequently, when I'm, in the old days, if you can call it a year ago, the old days, I spent 70% of my time traveling.
So you would say that, okay, so 70% of your time traveling, so that is the bread and butter to market the port.
Yep.
So you join a lot of the trade missions that are done by like
Yeah,
Enterprise Florida and stuff like that.
Exactly. For example, we would join, or I would join trade missions that Enterprise Florida would do. Another, the Florida Ports Council does a lot of marketing work. So, I would join them on some of these missions, gone as far as, and conferences, speak at conferences, to talk about the port and get to not only talk about the port, but get to know what other ports are doing. We can't operate in a vacuum. We need to know what other ports are doing, so we can help them help us. We do a lot of, I also arrange for a lot of memorandum of understanding, which is a marketing tool that ports use. So each port can jointly, share best practices, market each other, just marketing in general, marketing of everything that Port Everglades has to offer from a cargo standpoint.
On our pre-interview talk, you mentioned that there's a lot of our day-to-day that is affected by the work that you guys do. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yes, everything that is bought at a store locally, anywhere, comes in through the port. Florida is a very large consumer market, one of the main consumer markets in the nation, if you will. And not only for the sake of all of the millions of people that live here in Florida, but for Latin America. If you travel Latin America to any extent, when you're there, you'll know that people come here and shop for prices that are here aren't found anywhere else. I mean, heck, you go to Sawgrass Mills and it's like wall-to-wall people from just about anywhere. All that stuff got there through either a ship that came in through the port. Once it's cleared from the ship, a trucker picks it up, takes it to a distribution center. Another trucker from the distribution center takes it to the retail store or takes it to a grocery store, an automobile, you go to a dealer. So everything that we do affects the day-to-day activity of people. And that's always impresses me, when I go out and I speak at different functions and different conferences, people look at me and go, "Oh, wow, I didn't know that's how, that's how it works." And, well, it's got to get here somehow. And that's always been the amazing part of this, how much we affect the day-to-day. And a lot of people aren't aware of it.
So if I meet you at an event, right, and I'm like, I like what you're selling, I want to start shipping through you guys, what is it? What are the next steps?
Well, the next step is I would refer you first. I would ask you, where are you shipping? What are your points of origin? What are your dynamics? Where is it coming from? Where you want it to go? And once I know that, and how much, if you're bringing in a carton, there's a different set of processes than if you're bringing a full container of merchandise. I would refer you, if you wanted to import from Colombia, let's say, I would refer you to an import broker. And the reason for that is merchandise that comes into the country has to go through a clearance process with several government agencies. As a point of reference, every product that gets imported into the United States is subject to review by up to 47 different government agencies. So if Alejandro, if we meet at a conference and you tell me, look, I want to bring widgets from California or from Colombia, let's say, I'd say, well, Alex, have you done your homework? Do you know if your widgets from Colombia are allowed to come into U.S. commerce? Well, I don't know. I make a pretty good widget, but I want to bring it into the U.S. An import broker is the person that can navigate all of the different requirements from all of these 47 agencies and can save you a lot of time and processes to make sure that when your widgets land here, you can go ahead and sell them. Once that's established, then the other step, if you will, is I'd say, look, are you going to fly this, or are you going to bring it in through a ship? It's either or if you're coming from Colombia. And if you say, look, I want to bring it through the port of, my supplier is relatively close to Cartagena, or it's relatively close to Santa Marta or Barranquilla. So, okay, these are the ocean carriers that are coming out of Barranquilla that come into Port Everglades. And if for HOY reason, what you're bringing in from Colombia, any of those carriers don't call Port Everglades, I'll refer you to someone else. There's no shame in saying I can't do it. The shame is in, if I can't do it, not helping you to get it done with someone else. And then you go to the ocean carrier, you get the cost of shipping your goods here, and you're off to making a mint.
So are you saying that the blueberries I had for breakfast have probably gone through almost 47 approvals agencies?
Pretty close, and we won't even get into the fact that all the blueberries that come into the United States have to be fumigated. That's when you look at the clamshell, the first thing that it says is rinse before consuming.
I do that. I definitely rinse.
Good.
Well, according to the blueberry box, this is organic.
Oh,
they
no,
still fumigate?
Organics don't get fumigated, but
I still rinse.
All the others do.
Okay.
It's called the condition of entry. Before they get, if they're organic, they don't. But if they are, all the others must be fumigated with methyl bromide before they leave the port.
Sounds delicious.
Yummy.
What is it?
Methyl bromide.
We're assuming, and I know we're running out of time. I have one more question for you. Can you tell us a story from your travels?
The latest one. I'm in Shenzhen, China, October of 2019. And the conference that I was attending, it's an annual event, and it gets held at the Intercontinental in Shenzhen, China. And if you ever go there, you get the feeling that you're driving on an international drive in Orlando, because everything is so pristine. It's almost scary. We're sitting there having dinner at the restaurant at the Intercontinental, and there's a guy in the corner, with a piano, playing background music, and we're enjoying the music and so on and so forth. So the guy, of course, every 2 songs, he stops and, hey, I'm such and such, where are you from? And where, kind of like a cabaret type thing. And one of the guys stands up and goes, well, I'm paraphrasing on the name here, but I'm Miguel, and I'm here working at the Intercontinental, and I am from Santa Clara, Cuba. And what the heck? I literally got up from the table and I looked at him and said, I pointed at him in Spanish. I said, you're lying. There's no way you can be from Cuba and here in Shenzhen, China. And he looks at me, and of course, a Cuban meets a Cuban, and all the filters go out. So he looks at me, and literally, we said a couple of words that I don't think I can say here, but he came over, literally left the piano, came over to the table and hugged me as if I was a long lost relative. And we just started chatting. I still have a picture of the guy when we met in my phone, and I tell this story to people. You're like, what, of all places, un cubano in Shenzhen, China, And then we started talking, and the guy goes, he's been there in a government contract for about 2 years, and he flies back to Cuba once a year to see his wife and his kids.
Awesome.
That's one of many. I mean, you travel and you see people, and it's funny.
Hey, Robert, thank you so much for sharing your story and for taking the time to explain Port Everglades to us. And I look forward for one of these deep dives that we're going to do, dive deeper into some topics.
Alex, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and sharing what goes on the port. Feel free to call anytime. Thanks again, man.